Welcome to Battle Talk, a little laid back edition. I am Don Battlehawk, and I'm going to talk about a couple things today. The first thing I want to talk about is AJ McCarron's return to St. Louis. It'll be tomorrow. He'll come back to St. Louis as head coach. He was our quarterback for 2 seasons, and I liked him. I liked him as our quarterback. I think when his ankle was hurt in the playoff game and he wasn't producing the way he should have, that maybe the coach should have put someone else in. But I like the fact that he was willing to play and even willing to play hurt and try to make things happen. I got no hatred towards AJ McCarron. Now, I don't know what the situation was like in the locker rooms, whether other players liked him, whether the coach liked him, I don't know. Don't care. I liked him. I liked him fine. The only thing that I didn't like about that situation was in a league of transparency where we get so close to the players that the breakup between him and the Battlehawks was the way it was, and we didn't get more communication from the team in that situation. And we didn't have a more peaceful and pleasant exit for our quarterback of 2 years that many of us really loved. So, but that's not AJ McCarron's fault, probably. That might not even be Anthony Becht's fault, probably. I mean, who knows? And in the end, ultimately, who cares? But I don't have any ill will towards AJ McCarron. I don't want him to do poorly. I don't want him to do good. I don't care. It's a non-issue. Unless they're playing here in St. Louis, then yeah, I want McCarron to lose so bad that he's on the flight back to Texas crying that he lost. But I want that for everyone that plays the Battlehawks, no matter who they are. And let's move on to Anthony Becht. Coach here for 3 seasons? And then Rapoli comes and opens in Orlando and jokes about how he'll fire Anthony Becht from St. Louis and put him in Orlando. And it starts off as a joke, and now he's down in Orlando because they wanted a good coach in Orlando to start their new relocated franchise. That's fine. I don't wish him well. And it's hard for me to wish him poorly. I just don't care. As a matter of fact, it's to the point now whenever they show him, and I'm just like, I don't care. It's a non-issue. He's gone. He's not the coach anymore. He's 3-0. It's, good for them. But I'm not one of those people that'll be like, oh, that was my old coach. He's 3-0. Isn't that wonderful? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, they picked him up and moved him down there so that new franchise could get a good start, I guess. And we are where we are right now, and it is what it is. I don't harbor any ill will, but I just don't care. But when Orlando comes to St. Louis, I want him to go back to either Orlando or fly down to the hub in Texas crying because he lost. That's how it works. That's life. Should he feel bad, and the rest of the Storm feel bad that they are 3-0 because of the way they beat the Kings of Louisville in overtime because of 2 defensive penalties that were not in the same possession? Well, that's not the way you want to win a game. You want to win a game decisively playing a game, but I don't think they should feel bad. I mean, I think the standings should reflect the truth. Orlando is 2-0. UFL officials are 1-0. And then, you got the Battlehawks are 1-1, and all the way down there. That's how I see it, because I saw that as an officiating victory where the officials did have that impact. But at the same time, as I've said, I mean, those rules are the rules. They are in the rule book, and people are just so bent out of shape over it. And I don't get it. If there was a rule that was botched, like, let's say, for example, Orlando is stopped and there's a penalty, and then the Kings get the ball back and they score a touchdown, and the Kings walked away a winner. And then after the fact, when the game was called and the Kings had won, they came out and said, oh, wait, according to the rule book, Orlando should have won that game, not the Kings. That would have actually been a bigger injustice than what we saw. But people are responding with emotion, just like Battlehawks fans that are still tore up over 2023 playoff situation it's pure emotion. And there's a place for emotion, but there's also a place to sit back and look at things logically. So, logically speaking, and logically thinking, everything went fine. The game ended as it should have per the rules. And in all honesty, Rapoli should have just kept his mouth shut about whether he agreed or liked it or didn't like it. And the statement from the UFL would have been, we will review the rules in between this season and next season, and any rule changes will be announced. But the real problem here that I see, and this isn't what I do in my commentating. I don't do live in-game commentating. I tweet sometimes and whatnot, but I'm not telling people how the game's going right now and the facts and what the rules are and stuff like that. The failure, unfortunately, lands on three people here. The main failure lands on three people here. One, the UFL for not being clear when they were defining and explaining the rules to people. That is a big enough thing where two defensive penalties, no matter where or how they land from one team, is an automatic score from the other. That is a big thing, I think, to leave off the rules for halftime. That should be explained, not for the sake of the players and the coaches who should know, but for the sake of the fans at home and the people watching. Which are the fans at home. And even there, at the stadium. The next people that failed are the coaches. What is your job even if you don't know the rules? And why isn't there someone on your team that's their designated job to inform you of the rules if you're the coach, offensive, defensive, or the head coach? I mean, it shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone. Maybe the players. And the third group that failed would have been the announcers. That crap should be right in front of them. And the moment one defensive penalty was called, there needs to be someone in that booth saying, hey, let them know, in someone's ear at least, let them know that if the Kings have another defensive penalty, it's game over. If those three groups of people did their jobs, probably just as many people wouldn't have liked the outcome of the game. But I tell you what, the blowback would not have been as big because people would have been watching and they would have known what they were watching the entire time. And that's how it's supposed to work. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, tomorrow I'm going to the Battle Dome. I hope to see you there if you're in the St. Louis area. I hope to see the Battlehawks go 2-1 and beat the Stallions. That's what I want. I hope to see it happen in regulation. And if it happens in overtime, it happens in overtime. And I hope that if it does go into overtime, my Battlehawks do not have 2 defensive penalties that cost them the game. But I also hope that they make good decisions before it even gets to that point to where they're not in that position. And I hope that if we go into overtime, if there's 2 defensive penalties, it belongs to the Stallions. And I won't apologize for the win, if that's the case. And that's all I have to say about that.